The house stood on the eastern edge of Atlanta like it had always belonged there, solid, unapologetic, rooted deep in red Georgia clay. 2 stories of faded red brick, wide wraparound porch held up by thick white columns that had seen better paint, tall windows with original wavy glass that distorted the world outside just enough to make it feel softer. Built in 1947 by a 28-year-old Negro carpenter named Elijah Jackson, who had just returned from the war with medals nobody would ever pin on his chest in public, the house was more than shelter. It was proof. Elijah had laid every brick himself, mixed every batch of mortar, framed every door with hands still scarred from barbed wire and German shrapnel. He worked nights at the steel mill to buy the land, days on the build, and Sundays thanking God for letting him live long enough to finish the roof. When it was done, he carried his new bride, Ruth, across the threshold and told her, "This house ain't ever gonna let us go hungry for dignity." 68 years later, on a humid October morning in 2015, the same house still stood. The paint had peeled in places, the porch boards creaked underfoot, and the tin roof sang when rain hit it hard. But the bones were strong. The man who now lived alone inside was 93 years old, still tall despite the slight stoop, still sharp-eyed, still named Elijah Jackson, though most folks just called him Mr. Jack. He woke every morning at 5:47 a.m., the exact time the factory whistle used to blow when he was 20. Habit was the last luxury he refused to surrender. He moved slowly through the house in his slippers, turning on lights he didn't really need, just to remind the rooms they were still loved. The kitchen smelled faintly of coffee grounds and bacon grease from decades past. The living room walls held black and white photographs and mismatched frames. Elijah and Ruth on their wedding day, young and solemn. Their daughter Clara at 16, hair pressed and shining. Clara's wedding to Marcus in 1982. Then little Deshawn at 3, grinning with 2 missing front teeth. Deshawn was 33 now. He didn't visit much. Mr. Jack poured water into the old percolator, measured 4 scoops of cheap grocery store coffee, and set it on the stove. While it bubbled, he walked to the front window and looked out at the yard. The magnolia tree Ruth planted in 1951 had grown monstrous, its leaves dark green and glossy, even in autumn. The flower beds she once tended were overgrown with weeds and volunteer azaleas, but every spring they still burst into pink and white like they were apologizing for the neglect. He didn't mind the weeds. Weeds were honest. The coffee finished perking with a final sigh. Mr. Jack poured a cup, black, no sugar, and carried it to the porch swing. The chains groaned as he settled his weight. From here, he could see the street. Peachtree Lane, once a dirt road, now paved and lined with newer houses that tried too hard to look expensive. SUVs with shiny wheels, security signs and manicured lawns, people who waved politely but never stopped to talk. He sipped slowly, letting the heat travel down his throat and settle in his chest. At 93, warmth was something you had to invite in. A silver BMW 5 Series turned onto the lane at 7:12 a.m. It slowed in front of the house, hesitated, then pulled into the driveway. The engine cut, the driver's door opened. Deshawn stepped out wearing a charcoal suit that cost more than Elijah's first car. He carried a leather folio under one arm and a paper cup of coffee from one of those expensive chains that charged $6 for burnt beans. His shoes were polished to a mirror shine. His fade was fresh. Everything about him said money, except the way his shoulders hunched when he looked up at the house, like a man approaching a judge. "Morning, Granddaddy," he called, forcing brightness into his voice. Mr. Jack didn't answer right away. He took another sip, watched the steam rise. "Morning." Deshawn climbed the 4 steps, shoes clicking on the wood. He stopped at the top, unsure whether to sit or stand. He chose to stand. "Looking good out here," he said, nodding toward the yard. You got somebody cutting the grass? Grass cuts itself when it wants to, Mr. Jack replied. Deshawn gave the laugh people give when they don't know what else to do. Yeah. Listen, I was in the neighborhood. Thought I'd stop by. See how you're holding up. Mr. Jack finally looked at him. Really looked. Deshawn had his mother's eyes, Clara's eyes, but none of her quiet. I'm holding, he said. You? Good. Busy. Projects piling up. You know how it is. Mr. Jack knew how it was. He also knew Deshawn hadn't had a real job in 18 months. Real estate development sounded good on paper, but the market had been cruel to men who liked quick money and expensive suits more than honest blueprints. They sat in silence for a while. A mockingbird landed on the porch rail, cocked its head, then flew off again. Deshawn cleared his throat. Granddaddy, we need to talk about the house. Here it was, the real reason for the visit. Mr. Jack didn't flinch. We've talked. Not really, not lately. Deshawn set his coffee on the rail. The neighborhood's changing. Fast. Developers are buying up everything on this side of Morehouse. They're offering good money, real money, enough to set you up in one of those senior communities out in Buckhead. Gated, activities, nurses on call 24 hours. I don't need nurses. You're 93. And still breathing on my own. Deshawn rubbed the back of his neck. Look, I'm not trying to push you out. I'm trying to help. You could live comfortable, travel a little. You always said you wanted to see the ocean again. I saw the ocean in 44. Didn't like what I saw on the other side. Deshawn exhaled through his nose. The offer on the table is $1.4 million, cash, closing in 60 days. That's life-changing money, Granddaddy. For who? Deshawn blinked. For you? For family? Mr. Jack set his cup down on the small table beside the swing. The porcelain clinked softly. This house ain't for sale. It's not just a house, it's an asset. You're sitting on land worth more than most folks see in a lifetime. I'm sitting on memories, Mr. Jack corrected, and memories don't come with a price tag. Deshawn's voice tightened. I've got debts, okay? Serious ones, the kind that don't wait politely. If I can close this deal, I can clear everything, start fresh, maybe even help you more than I have lately. Mr. Jack studied his grandson's face. The boy he once carried on his shoulders to the state fair was gone. In his place was a man who looked like he'd been running from something for years. You think selling this house will fix what's broken inside you? Mr. Jack asked. Deshawn flinched. I'm not broken. You're drowning, son, and you want to sell my anchor to buy yourself a better boat. The words hung between them like smoke. Deshawn picked up his coffee again, took a sip he clearly didn't taste. Mama agrees with me. That hurt more than Mr. Jack expected. Clara, his only child, the little girl who used to sit on this very porch and read him the Sunday comics because his eyes were too tired after 12-hour shifts. She said that? She did. She's worried about you being alone here, worried about the stairs, the maintenance. She thinks what I need is to be put away somewhere safe so y'all can divide what's left. That's not fair. Fair? Mr. Jack's voice stayed calm, but there was steel underneath. Fair was me working 2 jobs so Clara could go to Spelman. Fair was me paying this house off in 1972 so no bank could ever take it from us again. Fair was burying Ruth in the dress she loved and still keeping her rose garden alive. Don't talk to me about fair, Deshawn. Deshawn looked away. The mockingbird returned, louder this time. I'm trying to take care of you, he said finally. You're trying to take care of yourself, and that's a different thing. Silence stretched again, longer, heavier. Deshawn finally spoke, voice low. The offer won't last forever. Developers get impatient. They'll just buy the lot next door and put up something ugly, and your view, your quiet, will be gone anyway. Then let it go, Mr. Jack said. I'll sit here and watch the ugly get built. I've watched worse. Deshawn stood. I'll come back next week. Maybe you'll feel different. I won't. Deshawn walked down the steps, shoes clicking again. At the bottom, he paused, looked back. I love you, Granddaddy. Mr. Jack didn't answer. Love wasn't the question. Trust was. The BMW backed out, turned, disappeared down Peachtree Lane. Mr. Jack stayed on the porch until the coffee got cold. Then he rose slowly, joints complaining, and went inside. In the hallway, next to the coat closet, hung a small shadow box. Inside, a faded army dog tag, a Bronze Star medal, and a yellowed photograph of 23 young black soldiers standing shoulder to shoulder in France, 1944. Elijah Jackson stood dead center, barely 25, eyes already old. He touched the glass once, lightly. Then he walked to the kitchen, opened the drawer beside the sink, and pulled out a plain white envelope that had been there 12 years. On the front, in Clara's teenage handwriting, to be opened only when necessary. He hadn't opened it yet, but he felt the weight of it now, heavier than the house itself. He slid the envelope back under the silverware tray, closed the drawer, and went to make another pot of coffee. The day was just beginning. The week after Deshawn's visit passed like most weeks did for Elisha Jackson. Quietly, predictably, and on his own terms. Monday morning, he swept the porch, even though the leaves had barely started falling. Tuesday, he walked the half block to Mr. Clarence's store on the corner of Auburn and Vine, bought a quart of buttermilk and a small sack of white cornmeal. Clarence, 78 and still calling him Youngblood, slipped an extra pack of peppermint candies into the bag without ringing them up. You still sweet on them peppermints, Mr. Jack? Ruth was, Elijah said. I just keep the habit. Clarence nodded like he understood more than the words. Most of the old heads on the block did. Wednesday, Elijah spent in the backyard, sitting in the wrought iron chair Ruth had painted white in 1963. He didn't garden anymore, not really, but he liked watching the bees work the last of the goldenrod. The bees didn't care that the neighborhood was changing. They came back every year anyway. Thursday brought the first real whisper of pressure. The mailman, a young Latino kid named Javier, who always wore earbuds, handed Elijah the usual stack. Utility bill, church newsletter, a catalog from Sears he never ordered from. Tucked between the pages of the newsletter was something new, a glossy trifold brochure. The front showed a smiling black couple in their 70s walking arm in arm through manicured gardens. Above them, in gold script, Golden Oaks Senior Living Community. Luxury, security, peace of mind. Now accepting priority reservations. Buckhead location opening spring 2026. Inside, the brochure listed amenities, 24-hour nursing staff, chef-prepared meals, fitness center, transportation to medical appointments, weekly bingo, monthly jazz nights. There was even a photo of a spacious one-bedroom apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows and a balcony overlooking the city. A yellow sticky note was attached to the front flap. Handwriting Elijah recognized immediately. Clara's, neat, looping cursive. Daddy, thought you should see this. They have a waiting list, but I put your name down just in case. We can talk about it Sunday. Love, Clara. He stared at the note for a long minute. Then he folded the brochure exactly in half, walked inside, and dropped it into the kitchen trash can under the sink. The lid closed with a soft metallic thud. Friday evening, around 6:40 p.m., the doorbell rang. Elijah wasn't expecting anyone. He never was. Through the peephole, he saw two men in dark suits standing on the porch. One was white, mid-40s, hair slicked back with product that caught the porch light. The other was black, younger, maybe 30, wearing a bright smile that didn't reach his eyes. Both carried leather portfolios. Elijah opened the door but left the screen door latched. "Evening, Mr. Jackson," Harlan said, extending a business card. "I'm Richard Harlan with Pinnacle Developments. This is my associate, Marcus Tate." Elijah didn't take the card. "I know who you are." Harlan's smile stayed in place. "We represent the group that's been acquiring properties along Peachtree Lane. We wanted to personally introduce ourselves and discuss an opportunity." "I'm not selling." Tate stepped forward, voice smooth. "We understand that, sir, but the offer we're prepared to make is substantial. $1.65 million now. All cash, no contingencies. You could be moved into temporary housing within the week while we finalize everything." Elijah looked past them at the street. A black Escalade idled at the curb, windows tinted so dark they looked like mirrors. "I said I'm not selling." Harlan nodded like he expected the answer. "Of course, we respect that. But I should mention, the city's rezoning application for mixed-use development on the block just went before the Planning Commission. If it passes, and it's looking favorable, the value of your property could actually decrease once construction starts. Noise, traffic, dust, not to mention the kind of businesses that follow high-density projects." Tate added, softer, "We're offering top dollar now so you can leave on your own terms before things get complicated." Elijah felt the old soldier's calm settle over him, the same calm he'd found in foxholes in 1944 when the shells came close. "You threatening me, son?" "No, sir," Harlan said quickly, "just informing you of market realities." Elijah studied them both. "Market realities don't pay my electric bill, don't fix my roof, don't keep my wife's roses alive. This house does." Tate glanced at Harlan, then back. "We'll leave our card. The offer stands for 30 days. After that, well, the market moves fast." They turned and walked down the steps. The Escalade's engine purred to life as soon as they reached it. Elijah closed the door, locked both deadbolts, and leaned against it for a moment. His heart beat steady. Too steady, maybe, but his hands were steady too. Saturday morning, he called Miss Evelyn. Miss Evelyn Carter lived 3 houses down. She was 86, still drove her 2001 Buick LeSabre to church every Sunday, and had been Ruth's best friend since 1952. She answered on the second ring. "Elijah Jackson, you still alive?" "Barely," he said. "You got coffee?" "Always. Come on over." He walked the short distance carrying nothing but his cane, which he used more for balance than necessity these days. Miss Evelyn met him at her screen door with a mug already poured. Black strong, just how he liked it. They sat on her enclosed sun porch, surrounded by African violets in every color. "Deshawn came by," Elijah said after the first sip. Miss Evelyn made a sound that was half laugh, half sigh. "That boy's been circling like a buzzard for months. I saw him park that fancy car last week. Looked like he was measuring the windows. He brought developers." She raised an eyebrow. "Did they come inside?" "Didn't let 'em." "Good. They came to my door 2 months ago, offered me $900,000. I told them I'd rather burn the house down than sell it to folks who think they can price dignity." Elijah smiled a little. "You always had a way with words." "Somebody's got to." She leaned forward. "Clara in on this?" "She put my name on a waiting list for some senior place in Buckhead." Miss Evelyn's face hardened. "She knows better. That girl was raised in this neighborhood. She knows what this house means." "She's worried about me being alone. She's worried about her son's gambling debts," Miss Evelyn said flatly, "and her husband's bad investments. Word gets around." Elijah looked into his coffee. "I didn't know about the husband." "Marcus. Nice smile. Bad habits. Lost a lot on some crypto thing last year. Now they're underwater on their mortgage in Alpharetta. Deshawn's been borrowing from people who don't like late payments." Elijah didn't answer right away. The silence stretched. "You thinking about talking to the governor?" Miss Evelyn asked quietly. Elijah's eyes flicked up. "Haven't decided. Jameson still owes you his life, she reminded him. That man was on your operating table in '78 with a bullet in his chest. You pulled him through when every other doctor said he was done. He's governor now. He'd take your call. I don't like calling in favors. Sometimes favors are the only currency left. Elijah finished his coffee. I'll think on it. Sunday arrived with church. Elijah wore his good navy suit, the one Ruth had picked out for him in 1995. The tie was silk, burgundy, a gift from Clara years ago when she still believed in second chances. He walked the 4 blocks to Mount Zion AME, cane tapping a steady rhythm. Inside, the choir was already warming up. The sanctuary smelled of lemon polish and old hymnals. Reverend Daniels preached on Psalm 37. Fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity, for they shall soon be cut down like the grass. Elijah listened with half an ear. The other half was on the back pew where Clara and Deshawn usually sat. Today, they were there. Clara in a cream dress, Deshawn in another expensive suit, looking uncomfortable in the wooden pew. After service, Clara found him outside under the big oak. "Daddy," she said, hugging him carefully, "you look good." "So do you." Deshawn hung back a step, hands in pockets. Clara glanced at her son, then back. "Can we come by the house this afternoon? Just talk, no pressure." Elijah looked at her for a long time. "You already put pressure on the mailman." She flushed. "I just wanted you to see the options." "I saw." Deshawn stepped forward. "Granddaddy, we're not trying to force anything, but the developers called me yesterday. They're getting impatient." "Let them get impatient," Elijah said. Clara touched his arm. "Daddy, please, for me, for the family. We can make sure you're taken care of. You don't have to worry about anything ever again." "I never worried about much," he said quietly, "except losing what matters." She looked like she might cry. "I'm trying to help." "You're trying to help yourself," he said, the same tone he'd used with Deshawn. "And that's different." Deshawn's jaw tightened. "We'll come by at 4. We'll bring dinner. Fried chicken from Mary Mac's, your favorite." Elijah didn't answer. He just turned and started walking home. Behind him, Clara whispered to Deshawn, "He'll come around. He always does." Elijah heard it. He didn't turn back. When he got home, he went straight to the kitchen drawer, pulled out the white envelope again. This time, he didn't put it back. He sat at the table, opened it slowly. Inside, one sheet of paper dated August 14, 2013, Clara's handwriting. "Daddy, if you're reading this, it means things got hard. I'm sorry. I know I've made mistakes. Marcus isn't what I thought. Deshawn is struggling. If you ever need to protect the house, the deed is already in a trust. I set it up in 2012. The beneficiary is the Elijah Jackson Community Scholarship at Morehouse. You have lifetime rights to live there. No one can sell it without your signature, and even then, the proceeds go to the fund. I did it because I knew one day someone might try to take it from you. I wanted you safe. I'm sorry if I'm not there to tell you this in person. I love you more than anything. Clara." Elijah read it twice. Then he folded it carefully, returned it to the envelope, and placed it in his inside jacket pocket. He looked around the kitchen, the same cabinets he and Ruth had painted pale yellow in 1974, the same linoleum floor he'd laid himself. The whispers of greed were getting louder. But the house was still his, and so was the truth. The Sunday dinner invitation hung in the air like smoke from a distant fire, unseen at first, but impossible to ignore once the scent reached you. Elijah spent the morning in quiet preparation. He dusted the dining room table, the same oak slab he and Ruth had bought secondhand in 1958 and refinished together on their 20th anniversary. He polished the silverware Clara had sent him for Christmas in 2009, the year she still believed apologies could be wrapped in ribbon. He set 4 places, one for himself, one for Clara, one for Deshawn, and one for the empty chair that used to belong to Ruth. He didn't know why he did it. Habit, maybe, or stubborn hope. At 3:45 p.m., he changed into a clean white shirt and his Sunday vest, the one with the small mend on the left lapel where Ruth had stitched it after he caught it on a nail in 1987. He looked at himself in the hallway mirror. Tall still, skin the color of dark walnut, hair gone completely white, eyes the same steady brown they'd been since basic training. 93 years had carved lines around those eyes, but they hadn't dimmed the light behind them. At 4:02 p.m., the doorbell rang. Clara carried a large foil pan from Mary Mac's tier room. Fried chicken, collard greens, candied yams, cornbread, all still warm. Deshawn followed with 2 plastic bags, sweet tea in gallon jugs, peach cobbler, paper plates just in case. Behind them, almost hidden, stood Marcus, Clara's husband of 22 years. Tall, light-skinned, always smiling like he was auditioning for something. Today, the smile looked thinner, more practiced. "Granddaddy," Clara said, voice bright with nerves, "we brought enough for an army." Elijah stepped aside. "Come in." They filed into the living room. Marcus lingered in the doorway, looking around like he was appraising the place for the first time. "Nice house, Mr. Jackson. Solid bones." Elijah didn't answer. He led them to the dining room. They sat, Clara on his right, Deshawn across from him, Marcus at the foot of the table. The empty chair at the head stayed empty. Ruth's place. The meal began politely. Forks clinked. Clara talked about the weather, the new development going up on Cascade Road, how traffic was getting worse. Deshawn nodded along. Marcus complimented the house again, twice. Then Clara set her fork down. "Daddy," she said softly, "we need to talk about the developers." Elijah took a slow sip of tea. "We've talked?" "Not really." She glanced at Deshawn, then at Marcus. "The offer went up. $1.8 million now. They want to close by the end of the month." Elijah chewed his chicken slowly. "I heard." Deshawn leaned forward. "Granddaddy, this isn't just about the money. It's about your safety. This house is too big for one person. The stairs, the yard. What if you fall? What if something happens and no one's here?" "I've fallen before. Got back up." Marcus spoke for the first time since sitting down. "Mr. Jackson, with respect, the neighborhood's changing. The crime stats are climbing. You're a target. Old man living alone in a big house. People talk." Elijah looked at him. Really looked. "People talk about a lot of things." Clara reached across the table, touched his hand. "We just want you safe, Daddy. Golden Oaks has everything. Your own apartment, activities, doctors. You could have visitors every day." "I have visitors," Elijah said. "Miss Evelyn comes by, Reverend Daniels, the mailman." Deshawn's voice tightened. "That's not enough. You're not safe here." The room went quiet except for the tick of the wall clock Ruth had hung in 1961. Then Marcus cleared his throat. "There's another option. You could deed the house to Deshawn now. He'd handle the sale, put you up in a nice place, and make sure you're taken care of for the rest of your life. No taxes, no hassle." Elijah set his glass down carefully. "You want me to sign over my house to your son so you can pay off whatever hole you've dug yourselves into." Marcus's smile flickered. "That's not—" "It is," Elijah cut in, calm as ever. "I know about the debts, Marcus, the crypto losses, the second mortgage, the people who've been calling your house at all hours." Clara's face paled. "Daddy!" "I'm not deaf," Elijah said. "And I'm not blind." Deshawn stood up so fast his chair scraped the floor. "This isn't about us. This is about you." Elijah looked up at his grandson. "Then why does every conversation end with a dollar amount?" Silence again. Marcus tried once more. "Look, Mr. Jackson, time is running out. The developers have other properties lined up. If you don't sell to them, they'll buy around you. You'll be an island in a sea of construction. Noise, dust, no peace, and then the value drops. You'll wish you'd taken the money." Elijah folded his napkin. "I've wished for very few things in my life. Money ain't one of 'em." Deshawn's voice cracked. "You're being stubborn. For what? Pride?" "For legacy," Elijah answered quietly. "This house is the only thing I ever built that nobody could take from me. Not the army, not Jim Crow, not the bank, not even death took it from Ruth. I'm not giving it away because my own blood wants a quicker way out of trouble." Clara started crying. Soft, contained tears. "I'm sorry, Daddy. I never wanted it to come to this." "Then why did it?" She didn't answer. They ate in strained silence for a few more minutes. Then Deshawn pushed back from the table. "I need some air." He walked out the back door into the yard. Marcus followed a moment later. Clara stayed. She reached for Elijah's hand again. "I love you," she whispered. I don't know how to fix everything." "You don't have to fix me. You have to fix yourselves." She nodded, tears falling freely now. Outside, in the backyard, voices rose. Elijah didn't move. He listened. Deshawn's voice first, low and angry. "He's not gonna budge. We're screwed." Marcus quieter. "We still have the other plan." "What other plan?" A pause. Then Marcus. "If he won't sell, we make the decision for him." Clara's head snapped up. She looked at Elijah, eyes wide. Elijah didn't flinch. He'd heard worse in operating rooms. He'd heard worse in trenches. Clara whispered, "Daddy, what are they talking about?" Elijah stood slowly, joints protesting. He walked to the back door, opened it. Deshawn and Marcus stood near the magnolia tree, faces close together. They stopped talking when they saw him. Elijah spoke from the doorway, voice carrying the way it used to when he gave orders in the OR. "Y'all come back inside." They did, slowly, like boys caught stealing. Back at the table, Elijah remained standing. "I'm gonna say this once. This house is mine. It will stay mine until I'm gone. After that, it goes where it's supposed to go. Not to developers, not to pay gambling debts, not to cover bad investments. If any of you try to force my hand, by words, by pressure, by anything else, I will protect what's mine the way I always have." Marcus tried to smile again. It didn't work. "We're family, Mr. Jackson. Nobody's threatening anybody." Elijah looked at Clara. "You hear that?" She nodded, miserable. Then he looked at Deshawn. "You understand?" Deshawn looked away. Elijah continued. "I've lived through things that would break most men twice over. I've held hearts in my hands. I've buried my wife. I've watched my only child choose paths I couldn't follow. I'm not afraid of what comes next." He paused. "But you should be." The words landed like stones in still water. Clara stood. "We should go." They gathered their things quickly. No one spoke. At the front door, Clara hugged him, longer than usual. "I'm sorry, Daddy." "I know." Deshawn didn't hug him. Marcus didn't either. They left. Elijah closed the door, locked it, turned off the porch light. Then he walked back to the dining room, cleared the table alone, washed the dishes by hand. When the kitchen was clean, he went to the hallway closet. Inside, on the top shelf, wrapped in an old army blanket, was a metal lockbox. He carried it to the kitchen table. Inside the box, his service revolver from 1945, cleaned and oiled every year on his birthday, a clip with 6 rounds, his old surgical kit, still sterilized, and the deed to the house, the original from 1947, yellowed but intact. He didn't open the gun. He didn't need to. He simply sat with the box open, looking at it. Outside, the night settled over Atlanta. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked once. Then silence. Elijah Jackson closed the box, returned it to the shelf, and turned off the kitchen light. But the shadow had fallen, and it wasn't going away quietly. The days after the Sunday dinner felt like the calm before a Georgia thunderstorm. Air thick, sky low, everything holding its breath. Elijah Jackson moved through the house with deliberate slowness, cataloging every creak in the floorboards, every shadow that lengthened across the walls as autumn deepened into November 2025. He cleaned the gutters himself, though his shoulders complained for 2 days afterward. He trimmed the last of the dead rose canes in Ruth's garden, wrapped the tools in oilcloth, and stored them in the shed behind the magnolia. Routine was armor. He didn't call the governor. Not yet. He didn't speak to Miss Evelyn about what he'd overheard in the backyard. Not yet. He simply waited. And the waiting ended on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. The phone rang at 10:17 a.m., the old landline with the curly cord that still hung on the kitchen wall. Only 3 people ever called that number: Clara, Miss Evelyn, and the occasional wrong number. It was Clara. "Daddy," she said when he picked up. Her voice sounded thinner than usual, like she'd been crying or hadn't slept. "We're coming for Thanksgiving, all of us. Deshawn, Marcus, me, and the kids." Elijah paused. The kids, his great-grandchildren, were 6 and 8 now, little Maya and Jamal. He hadn't seen them since last Easter. Clara always had excuses. "Thought you were going to Marcus's sister's house in Macon," he said. "We changed plans." A beat. "We want to be with family." He heard the unspoken part. "We need to try again." He could have said no, could have told her the house was too full of memories for new arguments. Instead, he said, "Come at noon. I'll have the table set." She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for weeks. "Thank you, Daddy. We'll bring everything. You don't have to cook a thing." "I'll cook what I want," he told her, and hung up. He spent the next 3 days preparing, not for reconciliation, but for clarity. Thursday, he went to the Piggly Wiggly on Auburn Avenue with his canvas tote, bought a fresh 20-pound turkey, sage, celery, 2 bags of yellow onions, cornbread mix, sweet potatoes, pecans. The cashier, a young woman named Tamika, who always called him Mr. J, slipped an extra pack of giblets in his bag. "You having a big crowd this year?" she asked. "Big enough," he said. Friday, he brined the turkey in a bucket he'd used since 1978. Saturday, he baked 2 pecan pies, one with the recipe Ruth had written on an index card in 1955, the other with the newer version Clara had emailed him years ago because "Pecans are expensive now, Daddy. Let's stretch them." He made the cornbread dressing from scratch, the way his mother had taught him in Mississippi before the family moved north for the steel jobs. Sunday, he polished the silver again, even though it still gleamed. Monday, Thanksgiving Eve, he called Miss Evelyn. "You coming tomorrow?" he asked. "Wouldn't miss it, but I'm bringing my pistol in my purse, just in case." He almost smiled. "Keep it in your purse." At 11:45 a.m. on Thanksgiving Day, November 27, 2025, the first car pulled into the driveway. It wasn't Clara's SUV. It was Deshawn's silver BMW. He stepped out alone, wearing a burgundy sweater that looked new, carrying 2 bakery boxes. No Clara, no Marcus, no children. Elijah watched from the front window. Deshawn climbed the steps slowly. Elijah opened the door before he could ring the bell. "Granddaddy," Deshawn said, voice low, eyes red-rimmed. "Can we talk? Just you and me? Before they get here." Elijah stepped aside. "Come in." They sat at the kitchen table. The smell of sage and roasting turkey filled the room. Deshawn didn't look at the food. He looked at his hands. "I'm in trouble. Real trouble. Not just debts. The people I borrowed from, they're not patient people. They gave me until the end of the year. If I don't come up with $200,000 by New Year's, they're coming for more than money." Elijah didn't flinch. You told your mother? She knows some, not all. Deshawn swallowed. Deshawn is the one who got us into the deep end, but I went along. I thought I could flip a few properties, get ahead. I was wrong. Silence. Deshawn continued. They know about this house. They know how much it's worth. They told me if I can't pay, they'll make sure the property gets sold, one way or another. Elijah's voice stayed even. You threatening me now? No. Deshawn's voice cracked. I'm begging. Granddaddy, please, sell the house. Take the money. Move somewhere safe. Give me enough to pay them off. I'll never ask again, I swear. Elijah studied his grandson's face. The boy he'd taught to ride a bike in this very yard was still in there, somewhere, buried under years of shortcuts and excuses. You came early to scare me into signing papers, Elijah said. It wasn't a question. I came early because I'm scared, for you, for all of us. Elijah stood, walked to the stove, checked the turkey, basted it with the pan juices. Then he turned back. I've been scared before, in France, in the operating room when the power went out mid-surgery, when Ruth got sick and the doctor said there was nothing more they could do. Fear don't make decisions for me. Deshawn's shoulders sagged. Then what does? Truth, Elijah said. And the truth is, this house ain't yours to sell. It ain't Clara's. It ain't mine to give away to save somebody else's mistakes. Deshawn started to speak. Elijah raised a hand. But I will make you a promise. If you come clean, completely clean, with your mother, with the law if it comes to that, I will help you find a way out that don't involve this house. There are programs, there are people who owe me favors, but it starts with truth. Deshawn looked up, eyes wet. You do that? I would, but only if you stop running. Before Deshawn could answer, tires crunched on the gravel. Clara's SUV pulled in. Doors opened. Maya and Jamal ran up the steps first, laughing, carrying a bakery box of rolls. Clara followed, eyes wary. Marcus last, carrying 2 covered dishes, smile fixed in place. The house filled quickly. Laughter from the children, the clatter of plates, the smell of food mingling with the scent of pine from the small Christmas tree Clara had insisted on bringing early to get in the spirit. They gathered at the table at 1:30 p.m. Elijah at the head, Clara on his right, Deshawn on his left, Marcus across. The children at the ends kicking their legs under the table. Miss Evelyn arrived at 1:45, right on time, purse on her lap. Elijah stood. Let us bow our heads. He prayed the way he always had, simple, direct, no theatrics. Lord, thank you for this food. Thank you for family, even when it's hard. Thank you for the roof over our heads, the memories in these walls, and the strength to do what's right. Keep us honest today. Amen. Amen, the table echoed. They ate. Turkey, dressing, greens, yams, cranberry sauce with the ridges from the cans still showing, rolls, pies. Conversation stayed light at first. Maya told a story about her school play. Jamal asked if he could have seconds on pie. Miss Evelyn teased Clara about her new haircut. Then Clara set her fork down. Daddy, we need to talk about the future. Elijah looked at her. We are talking about the future, right now. Deshawn shifted in his seat. Mr. Jackson, with all due respect, the developers have given us until Friday to accept the final offer. After that, they're moving on to the next block. Once that happens, Elijah finished, they'll build around me. I know. Clara's voice trembled. We're worried about you, about safety, about money, Elijah said calmly. Marcus started to protest. Elijah raised a hand. Let me finish. He looked around the table, first at Clara, then Deshawn, then Marcus, then the children, then Miss Evelyn. I've lived in this house 78 years. I built it with my own hands. I raised my daughter here. I buried my wife from here. Every brick, every board, every nail remembers what it cost to keep it, and I will not sell it to pay someone else's debts. Clara's eyes filled. Daddy, but I have made arrangements. The room stilled. I signed the final papers last week. The house is already in trust. Lifetime rights for me to stay. Upon my passing, the property and all proceeds will go to the Elijah Jackson Community Scholarship Fund at Morehouse College. Full ride for students from this neighborhood who want to study medicine or engineering, the way I did, the way I wanted Clara to do before life got complicated. Clara stared. You already did it? I did. Deshawn whispered, Granddaddy. Marcus's smile was gone. Elijah turned to Deshawn. I told you I'd help if you told the truth. The office still stands, but the house is no longer part of the equation. Silence stretched so long the clock ticked loudly. Then Maya piped up. Grandpa Jack, does that mean we still get to come here for Christmas? Elijah looked at her, softened. Yes, baby, you always will. Miss Evelyn nodded once, satisfied. Clara started crying. Quiet, real tears. Marcus pushed back from the table. I think we should go. Clara shook her head. No, we're staying. Marcus hesitated, then sat again. Deshawn looked at Elijah for a long time. Then he said, very quietly, I'll tell the truth, all of it, starting tonight. Elijah reached over and laid a hand on his grandson's arm. That's all I ever asked. Outside, the November sun dipped lower. Inside, the feast continued. Not perfect, not healed, but honest. For the first time in years. The table was still set from Thanksgiving. Plates pushed to the center, half-eaten slices of pecan pie under plastic wrap, glasses with rings of sweet tea at the bottom. The children had been sent to the living room with a Disney movie and a bowl of popcorn. The adults remained in the dining room, chairs pulled close, the overhead light casting long shadows across the oak surface Elijah had sanded smooth in 1962. It was 3:47 p.m. on Thanksgiving Day, November 27, 2025. No one had left yet. Clara's eyes were red, but the tears had dried into something harder. Resolve, maybe, or the beginning of it. Deshawn sat with his elbows on the table, head bowed. Marcus kept shifting in his seat like the chair was suddenly too small. Miss Evelyn had pulled her purse onto her lap and rested one hand on it, calm as a Sunday school teacher. Elijah remained at the head of the table, hands folded, waiting. He didn't rush them. He never had. Clara spoke first, voice low. Daddy, when you said the house was already in trust, you meant it. You really did it. I did. She looked at her hands. I should have told you about the trust I set up years ago. I was trying to protect you. I never told you because I was ashamed. Ashamed that I thought someone might try to take it from you. Ashamed that the someone might be my own son. Deshawn flinched. Marcus opened his mouth, closed it again. Elijah said nothing. Clara continued. I signed the papers in 2012. Marcus was pushing for a bigger house in Alpharetta. We were overextended. I knew if things went wrong, you'd be the one with something left to lose. So I went to a lawyer friend from Spelman, quietly. The trust names you as life tenant. After you, the house and the land go to the scholarship fund. No one can touch it, not even me. She looked up at him. I never told you because I was afraid you'd think I didn't trust you to decide for yourself. Elijah studied her face. You didn't trust the people around you. She nodded once. That too. Deshawn lifted his head. Mama, I didn't know about the trust. I didn't want you to know because I knew you'd try to talk me out of it. Marcus cleared his throat. So that's it? The house is gone? No sale, no cash out, nothing? Elijah turned to him slowly. The house was never yours to cash out, Marcus. Marcus's jaw tightened. We're family. We're supposed to help each other. We are. That's why I'm still sitting here. Silence. Then Deshawn spoke, voice hoarse. I owe people money. A lot. More than I told you earlier. 200,000 was the number I could still pretend was fixable. It's closer to 450 now, and they're not the kind of people who take IOUs. Clara's hand flew to her mouth. Marcus looked away. Elijah asked, very calmly, "Who are they?" Deshawn hesitated. They run with a crew out of East Point. Real estate on the surface, loans underneath. They've got liens on half the new developments in the city. When I couldn't pay the last installment, they started coming by the office, then the house. Then they mentioned your address. Clara whispered, "They know where Daddy lives?" Deshawn noted, "They know everything." Miss Evelyn made a sound low in her throat. "And you brought that danger to this door?" "I didn't have a choice," Deshawn said. "They were going to—" "You always have a choice," Elijah cut in. "You chose the fast way, the easy way, the way that ends with someone else paying the price." Deshawn's eyes filled. "I'm sorry, Granddaddy. I'm so damn sorry." Elijah leaned forward. "Sorry is a start, not the finish." He reached into his inside jacket pocket, the same pocket he'd carried Clara's old letter in since the night he opened it. He pulled out a second envelope, plain white, sealed. He slid it across the table to Deshawn. "What's this?" Deshawn asked. "Open it." Deshawn tore the flap. Inside, a single sheet of letterhead from the office of the Governor of Georgia, dated October 15th, 2025. A handwritten note at the top in blue ink. "Elijah, call me anytime, day or night. Your name still opens doors here. Jameson." Below it, typed, "Letter of reference and introduction. To whom it may concern. The bearer of this letter, Deshawn Jackson, is the grandson of Dr. Elijah Jackson, who saved my life in 1978 when every other physician had given up. I stand ready to assist in any lawful manner to help Mr. Jackson rehabilitate his life and resolve his current difficulties. Governor Robert Jameson." Deshawn stared at the page. You talked to the governor?" "I didn't have to talk," Elijah said. "He remembered. That's enough." Clara looked stunned. "Daddy, you never call in favors." "I'm not calling one in. I'm giving my grandson a chance to earn one." Deshawn's hands shook. "What do I do?" "You go to the authorities," Elijah said. "You tell them everything. Names, dates, amounts, threats. You cooperate fully. The governor's office will make sure the right people listen. There's a task force on predatory lending and organized real estate fraud in Fulton County. They've been trying to build a case for 2 years. You'd be a witness, not a defendant." Marcus laughed once, bitter. "And what about me? I'm on half those loans." Elijah looked at him. "Then you go too, or you run. Your choice." Marcus's face went blank. Clara reached over and took Deshawn's hand. "We'll go with you. All of us." Deshawn looked at his mother, then at Elijah. "You'd really help me after everything?" "I've been helping you since the day you were born," Elijah said. "I'm not stopping because you made mistakes. I'm stopping if you keep making them." Miss Evelyn spoke for the first time in minutes. "Boy, you got a second chance most folks never see. Don't waste it." Deshawn nodded slowly. "I won't." The room exhaled. Then Clara turned to Elijah. "What happens now with the house?" "The house stays," Elijah said. "I stay. When my time comes, it goes where it belongs, to kids who'll use it to build something better than we did." Maya's voice floated in from the living room. "Grandpa Jack, the movie's over. Can we have more pie?" Elijah smiled, small, real. "Yes, baby. Come get it." The children ran in. Maya climbed into his lap without asking. Jamal stood beside the chair, eyeing the last slice of pecan. Elijah cut it in half, gave one piece to each. Marcus stood. "I'm going outside for a minute." No one stopped him. Clara watched him go, then looked back at Elijah. He's not going to come around, is he? Not tonight. Maybe not ever. She nodded, accepting it. Deshawn stayed at the table. I'll call the police tomorrow, first thing. Tonight, Elijah corrected gently. You call the non-emergency line tonight. You start the clock tonight. Deshawn pulled out his phone with trembling fingers. Okay. He stepped into the hallway to make the call. Clara stayed with Elijah. She laid her head on his shoulder like she used to when she was small. I'm proud of you, Daddy, for everything. I'm proud of you, too, for the trust, for remembering who we are. Outside, the sun had set. Streetlights came on along Peachtree Lane. The neighborhood hummed with the sounds of other families finishing their meals, other televisions playing football highlights, other lives moving forward. Inside, the table was still a mess, but the air was cleaner. Miss Evelyn arose slowly, purse still on her arm. I'm going home before it gets too cold. Call me if you need anything. Elijah walked her to the door. She paused on the porch. You did good today. I did what needed doing. You pat his cheek. That's the same thing. She walked down the steps, disappeared into the night. Back inside, Deshawn was still on the phone, voice low, steady. Clara sat beside Elijah, watching her son. The children ate their pie, oblivious to the weight that had lifted, oblivious to the weight that still remained. Elijah looked around the room, the photographs on the walls, the empty chair that would always be Ruth's, the house that stood through wars and weddings and funerals, and now this. He felt the years settle on him like a familiar coat. Then he stood, slowly. Time to clean up, he said. And they did. Together. Not because everything was fixed, but because for the first time in a long time, everyone at the table had chosen to stay.